Inuyasha has some phenomenal characters, but what sets this show apart from many other series is their top-tier female characters. Some of them have been made famous for their design, for their powers, their stories, or even just their personality. But for the most part, many of the women that we interact with in Inuyasha are incredibly strong characters all around. This can't always be said for the random villagers we meet, but most relevant women are pretty badass. So today, let's talk about my 5 personal favorite female characters in Inuyasha. If you love the women in Inuyasha, be sure to subscribe and leave a like on the channel for more daily Inuyasha content. I'm trying really hard to get out as much content as I can, and I really do appreciate all the support so far. So let's start the list off with Kagome. While at the start of the series, Kagome can be seen as kind of a liability for Inuyasha, as the story progresses, this quickly stops. She gains better control of her spiritual powers, she becomes more effective with her bow, and most importantly, her feelings for Inuyasha settle into a place where we get much less tsundere moments. I really do like Kagome's role as someone who's from another time and has to adapt both mentally and physically to survive. If she had remained this scared person who never learned how to protect herself, she most likely would have never survived in the feudal era. If I'm being honest, Kagome was never my most liked character. However, I always really liked her growth in the story and the situation that she found herself in. In 4th place, we have Midoriko. While she isn't exactly the most present in the series as a whole, since she was sealed in the jewel 500 years ago, her impact is felt in literally every episode. Midoriko was the one who created the Shikon jewel, and as a history and mythology kind of guy, I really like knowing the stories behind these magical items and all that. She was the most powerful human of her time, and the way that her story parallels with Kikyo's is really something super cool. I really loved Midoriko's character. I think that she's thematically a perfect benchmark for the series, and everything else is just built up on her shoulders from there. Next up, of course, is Rin. There are so many characters in this series with tragic stories, and Rin is no exception. However, once she was revived by Sesshomaru, she is a constant supply of comedy, cute moments, and dopamine, and I always love the scenes that she's in. One of my favorites is when Sesshomaru tells her not to move because Kagura just showed up.
Stop, Rin. Do not move.
And then after a lengthy conversation when Kagura leaves, Sesshomaru says Rin can move again.
Rin, you're free to move now.
Yes, my lord!
Where it then shows us that she had been standing like a statue this entire time. She's just super wholesome, fun, and an absolute jelly bean of happiness that the series desperately needed. The runner-up is Kagura. Kagura, with the exception of Naraku himself, might be the most tragic character in the entire series. And I plan to do a video going into her story in depth a bit later, so I won't go too much into it now. The short version is that Kagura was one of Naraku's incarnations, and she used wind sorcery. Her only dream in the world was to be free like the wind, but Naraku literally held her heart in his hands, and she was chained by that. And it's for that reason that scenes like this in the second movie hit so hard.
I can feel my heart beating in my chest again.
The look of relief when Naraku vanished and she regained her heart was phenomenal. We often see her sneaking around and aiding Inuyasha and Sesshomaru so that they could eventually kill Naraku, and her whole character arc basically revolves around the idea of her path to freedom. And at the end of this arc, she gained freedom, but in the most tragic way possible. This sad story, along with her amazing design and extremely interesting abilities, always pulled me towards this character, and that's why she's my runner-up. Now before we do number 1, here are a few honorable mentions. Firstly, Yura. If you've seen any of my videos, you probably know how much I love this character's design and aesthetic, but I also like her role thematically in the story, being the first demon that Kagome has to actually kill herself, and her first step into really fitting into this feudal era. I probably would have had Yura at number 5, but I think many people would have burned me at the stake for not having Kagome on the list. Next up, Sera Asano, a parallel to Naraku and another tragic character that really stood out. We have Ruri and Hari from the first movie. I love how they use other people's abilities and friendships against them. It's a super cool dynamic. And of course, Kana, who is adorable, uses mirror magic and represents the void, and again, is terribly tragic. The most important honorable mention, though, is not having Kikyo on this list because she's kind of a bastard. But with all that, we come to number 1. Not only my favorite female character, but also my favorite character in the entire series, Sango. Sango is a demon slayer whose family was wiped out by her brother Kohaku while he was under the control of a demon. Her brother would be brought back to life with the power of a jewel shard and used against her by Naraku time and time again to create this huge struggle for her character. What I like about Sango most, though, is that she's the most well-rounded and human-feeling character in the entire series, in my opinion. In battle, sure, she's this absolute badass wearing this sweet set of Demon Slayer armor while using a giant boomerang and flying around on a flaming saber-toothed tiger. It's absolutely amazing. But her non-combat scenes are also great. The way she interacts with Miroku, Inuyasha, and Kagome was always so real. It always felt like she was the most honest character in the show, and like the writing for her dialogue was always one step above everyone else's. She could be funny, sweet, caring, serious, or scary depending on the moment, and I felt like they did a great job of doing this without making her ever feel really cheesy. All of this while being a total beast whenever demons showed up. Basically what I'm saying is, you need to get you a girl who can do both. With all that being said though, these have been my 5 favorite female characters in the series. What are yours? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed my list, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more Inuyasha content every day. And of course, with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, remember to stay excellent.